The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy. Ambassador Thelzik of the Vryn Confederation clicked his mandibles in what could only be described as anxiety. 3 cycles had passed since humanity had gone silent, and the joke that had once circulated through the galaxy's diplomatic channels now felt like a curse. "They're just posturing," High Chancellor Mortek had said then, his scaled face twisted in amusement. "Humans are all bark and no bite. They'll come crawling back," but humanity hadn't come crawling back. The Terran embassy on Zentara Prime stood empty, its doors sealed, its windows dark. Across the galaxy, every human diplomat, trader, and colonist had withdrawn to their home systems within a standard week. No explanation. No ultimatum. Just silence. Commander Vexra of the Carthon Military Intelligence Division stood before the assembled council members, her 4 eyes scanning the data pad in her clawed hands. What she had discovered in the past few cycles had drained the purple hue from her skin, leaving her an ashen gray. "Honorable members," she began, her voice steady, despite the tremor in her primary hands, "I must present findings that contradict our previous assessment of the human threat level." A ripple of dismissive chittering spread through the chamber. Councillor Dravik of the Pelax hegemony waved a tentacle dismissively. "Commander, please. We've all seen human combat footage. They're emotional, impulsive, and their technology is generations behind our own. What could possibly—" "They've been mining their asteroid belts," Vexra interrupted, a breach of protocol that sent shocked silence through the chamber. "All of them, simultaneously, for the past 2 solar cycles." She activated the holographic display. Images flooded the chamber. Massive human industrial ships, thousands of them, systematically stripping entire asteroid fields. The scale was staggering. Our analysts estimate they've processed 17 trillion metric tons of raw materials. The energy expenditure alone should have bankrupted their economy 10 times over. She paused, letting the numbers sink in. Yet their civilian infrastructure shows no signs of strain. "Which means they've been stockpiling," Ambassador Thelzik whispered, his confidence from 3 cycles ago utterly evaporated. Vexra nodded grimly. "We detected massive construction projects in deep space, far beyond their colonized worlds. They used their own satellites to mask the energy signatures. When we finally recalibrated our sensors," she pulled up another image. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Floating in the hologram were shipyards, hundreds of them, each larger than a Vryn battle carrier, and emerging from those yards were ships unlike anything the galaxy had seen. They weren't elegant like Pelax cruisers or imposing like Carthon dreadnoughts. They were brutal, geometric nightmares bristling with weapon emplacements and armor plating so thick they barely looked capable of movement. "How many?" High Chancellor Mortek's voice had lost all its earlier arrogance. "We've confirmed visual identification of 12,000 capital-class vessels," Vexra reported. "Our deep space observers suggest the actual number may be 3 times that. And these aren't exploratory ships, councillors. Every single one is a warship." Councillor Yinfar of the Celestial Chorus, whose species had advocated most strongly for the trade embargo that triggered this crisis, stood with trembling limbs. "But their economy, their resources, this should be impossible. We made a critical error in our assessment," Vexra continued. "We assumed human psychology was a weakness. Their emotionality, their attachment to individuals over the collective, their refusal to accept losses as acceptable casualties. We thought these traits made them soft." She pulled up combat footage from humanity's civil conflicts, grainy, ancient recordings that most species dismissed as primitive barbarism. "We failed to consider what it means when a species that values individual life that highly still chooses to fight. They don't go to war easily, councillors, but when they do—" She enhanced one image, showing a human soldier carrying a wounded comrade through hellish conditions. "They fight with a desperation that rational species simply cannot match." Ambassador Thelzik's voice was barely a whisper. The Krevener incident. Every being in the chamber knew the story. 23 human civilians stranded on a failing station in contested space. The Galactic Council had ruled it too dangerous for rescue operations. Humanity had sent 3 ships anyway. When Krevenor pirates tried to stop them, the humans didn't retreat. They didn't even slow down. 12 hours of continuous combat. The humans took catastrophic damage, lost 2 of their 3 ships, but they got every single civilian out. The Krevenor pirates, who had terrorized that sector for decades, simply dissolved after that engagement. Their survivors spread word. Never corner a human protecting their own. We didn't laugh at them because they were weak, Thelzik realized aloud. We laughed because we were afraid of what they represented. High Chancellor Mortek's tail lashed anxiously. Recommendations, Commander? Vexra straightened, her military bearing returning. Immediate diplomatic contact must be established. The embargo must be lifted and formal apologies issued. Every hour we delay, they build more ships. She locked eyes with the Chancellor. And, sir, we detected something else. Energy signatures consistent with weapons testing. Not conventional weapons. What kind? Dravik demanded. The kind that turns planets into asteroids, Vexra said flatly. The kind that suggests they're not building a defense fleet. The chamber fell into suffocating silence. Outside, the galaxy continued its daily rhythms, unaware that the balance of power was shifting. In the Sol system, humanity built and planned and remembered every slight, every dismissive laugh, every council meeting where they'd been treated as upstart children. Ambassador Thelzik thought of the human phrase he'd heard once. Speak softly and carry a big stick. Humanity hadn't spoken at all, and the stick they were building could shatter worlds.